rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Ooh, I got my Hello Whiskey Warriors in right under the wire. Oh, hello everyone and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, goodness gracious. It's a Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. Well, for some of us anyway. This is going to be a long one for me, but that's okay. Not a problem. I am glad you are here with me tonight, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. I believe tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is brought to us by Pops McGroin and partner. So let's go ahead and please stand, if you would, and remove your hat, if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Pops McGroin and partner as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
All right. And of course, I thank you, Pops and partner, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. You know, I haven't seen Pops McGroin or actually any of the McGroin crew in quite some time. I'll be honest, I haven't really been hanging out on Rumble that much, but yeah, I haven't jumped into their little thing, so I'm hoping everybody's doing well. Well, a deep subject for a shallow mind. Anyway, what I am drinking tonight is Buffalo Trace. Still working on the bottle, of course, but yeah, I'm gonna have to get some more variety here before too much longer. Kind of had some changes in the monetary aspect, so yeah. Anyway, you know, obviously I can only afford what I can afford, and that's it. So there you go. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the TGRN glass. I don't know what happened to it. I'm assuming that Mrs. Whiskey hid it from me for some reason, but that's okay because I've got the Trump 2024 glass, American flag glass here. Trump 2024. There we go. There it is. It's in the glass. And there's the requisite stones because, of course, it takes stones to drink with whiskey. So there we go. Requisite first sip. Oh my gosh, I forgot. We got to light it off right. Man, I jumped right into
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. We have, you know, of course you did, Bonnie. So we have Margarita Monday. We have Taco Tuesday. We have Whiskey Wednesday. What other days, what other things could we have for like Thursday and Friday? Come on, help me out here. You know, Thursday, Friday, and we even need Saturday and maybe not Sunday, but at least Saturday. So give me some ideas, because I was thinking Margarita Monday, you know, Taco Tuesday, Whiskey Wednesday. I need something for Thursday and Friday. So go ahead and stick that in the chat, if you would. Please, well, I don't know about Thirsty Thursday, because, yeah, maybe. But I was thinking more along the lines of, like, alcohol or food. So just something to throw it together. That's a good idea, though. That's a good idea there, Nana. For it, but I was thinking more alcohol and food. But anyway, come and see if we can come up with something, because I would like to have 5 days a week. All right. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest in the Facebook chat. We have a guest that I haven't seen in a very long time, and neither have you, ladies and gentlemen. I need to introduce you. Well, anybody who has been a long-time Whiskey Warrior P1 knows who this gentleman is. None other than J Money Bose is over in Facebook land right now. He just mentioned Tequila Thursday, so welcome, Jay. It's been a while. You need to let us know how you're doing. I gotta, one of these days we gotta get you back on the show here, for it. But anyway, anybody who has a Facebook account that wants to say hi to Jay, head on over to Facebook and jump onto the American Perspective page. He is there, so you can go and check that out. Or he may end up coming over to Rumble. I don't know. He might pop over on Rumble too. But anyway, J Money Bose is over there, and go check him out. Go check it out if you can. All right. Let's see. Where was I? Oh yes. Let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah. This tonight, of course, the headline sponsor. As soon as I get my act together, you guys are throwing me off, man. Everything we got going on is throwing me. Okay. There we go. True Grit Roots Network. TGRN. True Grit Roots Network. Yes, we have the two channels. We have the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio and, of course, the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, which you can listen to right through your browser. Right there, there's the apps. There's the, right behind me is the, whoops, wrong finger. There we go. Right behind me is where you can click and play right there. But you can download the app too. You can download it from the App Store or Google Play. You can do both. Oh, I have to get rid of that graphic because we're done and over with the new app on Walter Trout. Anyway, some changes on Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. Of course, I mentioned to you about Jonathan Oogie Richards and his new show, Oogie's Roadhouse. Oogie's Roadhouse. Well, you do know that Oogie and his daughter Burr were running Dirty Boots Radio. Well, now, since Oogie has got his own Roadhouse, that means Burr takes the mic, the primary mic, for the Dirty Boots Radio on Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. So you guys should go and check that out. I believe that is Thursdays for it. So anyway, you can go and check out the Dirty Boots Radio show as well as the new Oogie's Roadhouse. Oogie's Roadhouse is on Friday. Dirty Boots Radio is on Thursday. And Thursday, I think actually both shows go from start at 10 a.m. Central, then 2 p.m. Central, and then finally 8 p.m. Central. So you can go and check that out. And we would appreciate it for sure for that. But go to tgrn.net. That stands for True Grit Roots Network. And we are based out of Austin, Texas. Fantastic couple of radio channels that you can play with. Well, you can take us along on your entire day. Anyway, all right. So okay, that pretty much covers all that. All right, looks like everybody's jumping over saying hello to Jay, which is cool. Yeah. And Jay, you're still popular. That's all I got to say. Anyway, okay, so first off, California and Democrats in particular, but California, of course, has its own share. Well, California and Democrats right now are kind of synonymous with one another. But all of that being said, California and the Democrat legislature and the Democrat governor and the Democrats are just ruining the heck out of California. I mean, we already know that, like Ben Shapiro makes it absolutely clear that, he took Daily Wire and moved it to Tennessee for the specific purpose because of the business acumen in California was a bit of a pain. Well, you would expect that from a essentially a conservative type of individual. But the fact of the matter is that it's more than just conservatives that are leaving the state. Well, here, this was announced. This is in the Epoch Times, but this was announced. Bed Bath & Beyond says that they won't operate stores in what they are calling overregulated California. So the company chairman claims the state itself is too expensive and risky for the home goods retailer to open or reopen stores. That doesn't bode well. I mean, granted, I know Bed Bath & Beyond, it's kind of an eclectic taste or whatever. I've been in a couple of them when forced by Mrs. Whiskey and her friends. But all of that being said, it's they're just not that good to business. Well, it's not just California, by the way. It's also any Oregon, Washington, any of those. They are all in the same space. So, there we go. See, there we go. Jay jumped over to Rumble. So that's cool. Head on over to Rumble. Say hi to Jay. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, yes. Bed Bath & Beyond says it's not going to operate its stores in overregulated California. That's pretty much. We kind of expected, realistically. You sort of expect stuff like this. I mean, San Francisco, believe me, I've seen some of the images in San Francisco, even when I was there. I mean, I've told you about that on this program where I went there for a business trip after I had been there for a personal vacation, and the difference between the two was night and day, literally night and day in terms of safety and so on and so forth. I mean, I have traveled a lot of places in this world. And I'm not talking about just in America or Canada or Mexico, although I haven't really been to Mexico, but I basically have traveled quite a few places in this world, and I've never in a hotel been told by the hotel staff to don't go past X street or don't go in that direction out from the hotel. Go the other way. I've never been told that until I went to San Francisco, which is kind of a sad sack of affairs, realistically, because I mean, let's face it, that's not something that should happen in a in an American city anywhere. All right. Well, so the chairman announced on August 20th that the company would not open. That was today. He goes, this decision isn't about politics. It's about reality. So the company head, Marcus Lemonis, however it's pronounced, said it in a social media post. He said, California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to our customers. So he's the executive chairman of Beyond Inc., which owns Bed Bath & Beyond. He claims the state regulations result in higher taxes, fees, and wages that many businesses can't sustain. Do you remember that comment that I've made multiple times about the $20 an hour minimum wage and so on and so forth? All of that stuff? Yeah. Guess what? Here you go. This is all starting to set up what's going to happen in California. I'm telling you, if you ever want to see what leftist policies do, all you have to do is go to California or visit California on the web or some of that stuff. I mean, all you have to do is just go to one of these places and you'll know. Seattle, as an example, was once a beautiful city. You could have walked around downtown without a problem. The last time that I went into downtown, there were people crapping on the sidewalk. There were needles all over the place. There's homeless people camping all over, even on the freeway and underneath the overpasses. Just all kinds of it's just absolutely disgusting. Nobody wants to go to those places. If you were thinking of going to Seattle in any way, shape, or form, no, don't do it. Don't do it. That's all I'm saying, unless you absolutely have to, because yeah, it's not good. But anyway, the chairman also added that regulations strangle growth. So, of course, California Governor Gavin Newsom, his office did not express concern about the retailer's announcement. So Newsom's spokesperson, Tara Gallegos, however it's pronounced. Anyway, she said, after their bankruptcy and closure of every store, like most Americans, we thought Bed Bath & Beyond no longer existed. Told this to the Epoch Times in an email. She says, we wish them well in their efforts to become relevant again as they try to open a second store. Yeah, so anyway. It is true that the company did file for bankruptcy in 2023, closing hundreds of stores after years of dismal sales and several attempts to turn the struggling business around. The company was purchased by online retailer Overstock.com and transitioned to an online-only presence. Bed Bath & Beyond closed all of its 41 California stores, along with all other U.S. locations in July of 2023. The retailer's parent company, the Brand House Collective, announced a grand opening of its first Bed Bath & Beyond home store in Nashville, set for August 8th. And the company's shareholders approved the move in July. See, here's the problem. I don't think very many stores can actually survive completely online unless you do something like Amazon, where, you become the distributor, you become the warehouser, and obviously the sales. That particular prescription seems to work quite well for Amazon, but most stores are not necessarily going to survive that way. Singular stores. See, the reason why Amazon survives is because they became essentially like a big box store on the internet. They have just about anything. You can find just about anything on Amazon, and that's why they survive today, because they are in everything and anything and everything store. But if you have any type of specific product, vertical, any kind of specific products and services that you provide, anyway, so it's just become a bit of a mess. So there you go. Anyway, all right, enough of that. I mean, we all know how California is. Well, speaking of California, the Californian legislators, they demonstrate how stupid they actually are, meaning like how little they actually know. So apparently, according to this in this article in Townhall, California Dems fail miserably answering this simple question about their new congressional maps. So here's their new congressional maps. In other words, they're talking about the new congressional maps that they're attempting to get done in competition with Texas, which, by the way, Texas just passed their congressional maps today. Congratulations to Texas for doing what the court told them to do. Regardless of what you hear on the news and the mainstream media and through the Dems, this was court ordered. It was done so because of the fact that Texas was sued by the Biden administration into having something to do with the redistricting that they did in 2020 being something like, I don't know, leftists call everything racist, so there you go. But they went ahead and they got it done. They finally got it done. And because of the fact that it was court ordered, unlike what a lot of the Dems want you to believe, this isn't like some sort of a collusion between the Trump administration and Texas. This is actually, again, it was court ordered by the federal court system. You can look it up online, U.S. versus Texas. You can see what they were told, that they had to redistrict because of the fact that the original maps that were there, the Biden administration said were racist. Anyway, there you go. So now they've got it all congruous and contiguous and everything is happy. And, you know, they've passed it now. So the Senate's passed it. The House has passed it. Now it's going to go to, I'm assuming, Greg Abbott's desk to sign off on it. But all of that being said, you know, Governor Newsom has been essentially banging the drum saying, we're going to redistrict, we're going to redistrict. Well, except there's only one problem. California has a constitutional standard that basically says they can only do it once every 10 years. They did it back in 2020 or 2021. So they're not due until the next census comes around. There's also another problem. They put forth, because the legislature apparently didn't want to actually work, and so they put forth and said to the voters, hey, here's a amendment, a constitutional amendment that basically sets up a independent committee that puts it all together. And, well, now they are going to be asking the voters of California, hey, you know what? You remember that proposition that we just had you pass like 15 years ago or something? Yeah, we want you to actually suspend that for a couple of years until we can get this gerrymandering done so that we can stop what Texas is doing. I'm hoping the California voters see through that and are like, yeah, you guys made your bed, lay in it. I'm hoping. I hope they take Newsom's idea of a new redistricting map and shove it right up where that sun doesn't shine, that he might use some of that grease that he puts on his hair for. Anyway, so what's happening with the California folks, they don't even know where the maps get drawn. So California State Senate Elections Committee Chair Sabrina Cervantes served up a near 4-minute word salad trying to answer the question, who drew the maps that they have? And apparently during this time, I'm not going to play the video clip for you, but apparently throughout it, she kept saying that, oh, the process is transparent. The process is transparent. Yeah. Okay. And it's not just her, but California Assembly Elections Chair Gail Pellerin had reportedly an even worse answer, virtually admitting that she did not know, opting to try and whisk it away by saying, well, I don't want to see the chef when I go out to eat. Ha! No offense, but I kind of do. But anyway, her quote was, when I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef. Yeah. So, none of these people really know. Yeah. None of these people even know how they got their maps drawn. Not a single one. Well, as a part of that redistricting vote, apparently somebody called in or something an active shooter threat, and the Texas Capitol was evacuated for this. I don't know who did it. I mean, it was a social media threat. The evacuation, this was on Tuesday. The evacuation, which began around 6:30 p.m., came as demonstrators protested a Republican move requiring Democratic lawmakers to remain in the building unless they accepted a police escort to their homes. That was there in place because they didn't want the Texas Democrats to take off again to stop getting a quorum. So the threat itself, according to the Department of Public Safety, read state troopers, state police, said the threat was posted by an unidentified individual urging people to take action by shooting and killing those who will not allow lawmakers to leave. The scare stalled the legislative session as Republicans sought to advance proposals on flood victim aid and new congressional maps. Texas DPS issued a statement indicating that personnel are working to identify the individual responsible for posting the message. So hopefully these folks are, hopefully these folks are going to be found. It would be interesting to find out if that was a Democrat. Hold it in. Yeah, that might happen. Anyway. All right. Well, we have Alligator Alcatraz. We have the largest deportation facility, or I should say illegal alien detention facility, that was opened in Texas. Well, now we have the Cornhusker Clink. That's right. Well, you talk about cool names. You know, I'm waiting for the Democrats or the leftists to pop up and see this. The Cornhusker Clink. So this is now the fourth, by the way, the fourth new illegal immigration detention and deportation facility modeled after Alligator Alcatraz. According to the National Pulse, the Trump administration is set to open its fourth, repurposing the Department of Corrections work ethic camp in McCook, Nebraska. That's why they call it the Cornhusker Clink. Man, I'm going to have to get that down. Anyway, the facility is supposedly being able to house 280 criminal illegal aliens awaiting deportation and is supposed to be overseen by the Department of Homeland Security. So, they have Alligator Alcatraz and 3 new facilities being opened in or announced in recent weeks, including Deportation Depot, which is located at the shuttered Baker Correctional Institution in Sanderson, Florida, and the Speedway Slammer, utilizing part of the Miami Correctional Facility in Bunker Hill, Indiana. And now they have the Cornhusker Clink. So that's Alligator Alcatraz, Deportation Depot, Speedway Slammer, and Cornhusker Clink. Yeah. That's Florida for you. Anyway, Florida is now Alligator Alcatraz, yeah. And we know about the one in El Paso, although I don't think that one's been named yet. That one's the largest one that's been built, is the one in El Paso. Well, speaking of Florida, and honestly, I showed you the video of the illegal alien who was issued a commercial driver's license by the state of California and ended up killing 3 people in a minivan. Well, that's not the only problem, folks. See, illegals are driving everywhere today. In many cases, the driver's license, and again, this is why I keep pointing out, we can't necessarily use the driver's license as a definitive photo ID for voting, because driver's licenses in many of these is just being handed out like candy. Okay, it's just being handed out to anyone. Pretty much you can pay the fee. And in some cases, they even hand out books that are in the native language. For an example, here in Washington, that's what they do. If you cannot read and write and speak English, well, at least read and speak English. I don't know about writing, but they basically are, handing them books in their native language to be able to get a driver's license. And I'll get to more of that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about, if I can get it to go, let's talk about Rumble Premium. As you've probably noticed, Rumble is growing fast, and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium. It's an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content that you came for. Plus, Premium members also unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. I haven't done that yet. I need to do that. Anyway, right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium, and that /, by the way, is the question mark key on your keyboard. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO, STUDIO, at checkout. And you'll get $10 off that annual subscription. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO, STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. Rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO, STUDIO. All right. So as I was saying, illegals driving is really a bit of a problem. Well, Sheriff Grady down in Florida. You got to love Florida. You know, if you want to look at everything that the leftists do that destroys America, just look at California. You want to look at anything that protects America and makes America great, look to Florida and or Texas. Both of them. But anyway, So Sheriff Grady down in Florida apparently has a Nicaraguan man who is illegal in the United States. He's now facing enhanced charges after allegedly committing a drunken hit and run, according to Polk County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Grady Judd. And this was reported by Fox News, by the way. Authorities identified the suspect as a 34-year-old individual who was arrested on Saturday evening in Winter Haven. Deputies responded around 7 p.m. after receiving reports that a white Honda had crashed into a fence and that the driver had walked away from the scene. Well, here's the thing. First of all, if he hadn't walked away, all right, he hadn't walked away, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful. And thank goodness it was just a fence and his Honda that, you know, the driver's Honda that got damaged. But the problem here now, because he is an illegal, under Florida law, apparently that allows Sheriff Grady to up the charge. Apparently they asked the guy, when they finally caught up to him, they asked the guy if he had been drinking, and the guy admitted to consuming 6 bottles of Modelo at around 5 p.m. So they administered a breath test, recorded a blood alcohol content level of 0.13 and 0.124. Field sobriety exercises also indicated several signs of impairment, according to the arrest record. He was taken to the Polk County Jail, charged with driving under the influence, property damage, DUI, leaving the scene of a crash with property damage, and, operating a vehicle without a driver's license. So now he is going to be under what they call enhanced, enhanced charges. There we go. So Sheriff Judd explained that with the DUI, the property damage charge was elevated to a 3rd-degree felony, while the other charges remained as 1st-degree misdemeanors. So he posted this on Facebook. He emphasized that the man is going to remain in custody until U.S. ICE assumes responsibility. The sheriff also pointed out, like I did, that the incident could have been far worse, noting that it was fortunate the crash only damaged the fence. Sheriff Judd says, in Florida, if you're committing the crime of being here illegally, your other criminal charges are enhanced 1 degree. And this gentleman is now facing a serious felony because he caused damage to property while driving under the influence. There you go. This is what you need to do. Yeah. So the sheriff reiterated that Florida law treats the act of being in the country illegally as a crime that compounds additional offenses. The upgraded felony charge means that the man could face a prison sentence if convicted. Now, just for the record, ICE so far has not publicly commented on whether or not they will take custody of the man. And he remains behind bars at the Polk County Jail. Well, these incidences and other incidences like these around the country has started to make people ask the question, and which is essentially, why do we have illiterate drivers? And more especially, and more importantly, why do we have illiterate foreign truck drivers, like semi-drivers? I mean, the Federal Aviation Administration and the aviation industry as a whole, across the board internationally, has requirements that the pilots must be able to communicate in English. No matter where you go, if you listen on any air traffic control frequency, you will always hear the pilots speaking English. And so the question becomes, and is starting to being asked, how is it that these people are able to come here and get, driver's licenses, CDL licenses, and not have the same thing? Because let's face it, while a tragedy in the air impacts a lot of people all at once, the situation or the situations where things can happen are tightly controlled, so it doesn't happen very often. But on the road, you're on the road with just about anybody and everybody. And so there should be a law, and in fact there is a law with regards to CDLs, that you must be able to communicate in English. You must be able to communicate in English. I mean, think about it. All of our road signs are in English. When they talk to the police officers and the way station officers, they all are going to communicate in English, because that's, even though it's not our official language, it's the most common language that is spoken here in the United States. So the question must be asked, where in particular is the federal government on this? Because constitutionally, the federal government has control over interstate commerce. And the Interstate Commerce Commission issues trucks with registrations and registration numbers. Well, here's the problem. The nationwide Interstate Commerce Commission, they are not regulating the commercial driver's licenses. What's happening is the commercial driver's licenses are being handed out by none other than the individual states. And you have people or places like California who just seem to want to hand them out to anyone. So, how, and this is another question, which this is, honestly, this is another thing that the mainstream media is not going to talk about, is realistically, how is it that that the mainstream media is not like doing a full expose on this. I mean, realistically, why are they not? Anyway, so the Trump administration, by the way, in case you haven't forgotten, the Trump administration made a significant change to the way that truck drivers are regulated in the country. The Department of Transportation announced that commercial motor vehicle drivers who cannot demonstrate proficiency in the English language should be placed out of service. Now, that change, according to the announcement, would ensure consistent nationwide enforcement of this very important qualification. After all, if you can't read road signs, then you have no business operating any kind of vehicle, much less alone an 18-wheeler. And I'm sorry, buddy, but no, the English is not the official language. We have no official language here in the U.S. We have nothing where it is official, and it says that it's official. We don't at this point. But anyway, so these tests, by the way, are conducted in 2 phases, according to this Daily Wire article. And it often takes place on the roadside after the driver has been pulled over. And also, as a part of this, phase 1, the drivers are not allowed to cheat by using any kind of cue cards or smartphone apps. Now, the Obama administration, by the way, allowed that. Yeah. So, anyway, the drivers are required to respond to official inquiries and directions in English as they carry on a basic conversation about their trip, their cargo, and their qualifications. In phase 2, the officers are supposed to assess the driver's ability to understand highway signs, including standard signs and electronic signs, which are much more dynamic. By all accounts, these are not particularly difficult tests. For an example, here is a video from a trucker in Arkansas who already had a similar English language test for truckers. So let's take a look at this video.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So today we're going to talk about Arkansas because a lot of drivers are getting pulled over in Arkansas, and after that they're taking your English speaking and writing tests. So personally, I also got stopped at the wait station in Arkansas 2 days ago. So they asked me 3 questions. Were you born in the United States? Do you speak English? How long you been trucking? That's it. And they made me write down only 2 lines of paragraph. That's it. So a lot of you guys are scared, be like, oh, my English is not good. Oh, they're gonna revoke my driving license or blah, blah, blah. Nothing, okay? I think if you're driving a truck, I'm pretty sure you can speak these 3-4 words, okay? You were born in the United States or not, it doesn't matter. They don't give a fuck, okay? This test is not a big deal. You guys make a big deal out of it. It's not a big deal, okay? So don't be scared. I know a lot of drivers are canceling the roads who don't speak English, that, oh, we're gonna get stopped in Arkansas, we're gonna lose our license. Nah, nothing like that, okay? It's not a big out of a deal. Welcome to America, I guess.
Okay. So, welcome to America, he says. And realistically, yeah, but the problem is that many of these people are not passing this. And by the way, that was the account Trucking Talent on YouTube, by the way. That interesting how he actually was quite well in terms of that. As long as you can answer, according to him, as long as you can answer a couple of very basic questions and write only 2 lines or a paragraph, then you're generally good to go. However, it's caused a lot of panic around truckers who can't speak a word of English. So they're making the argument that they're just doing their best, and that it's wrong for Donald Trump to be mean with them. Except you have drivers who do exactly what that idiot who had a California CDL try and use an official lane only cut across on a turnpike in order to turn around. Well, by the way, much to nobody's surprise, okay, the several Democrat-run states and law enforcement agencies have announced that they were not going to comply with the new directive. As a spokesman for the California Highway Patrol put it, CHP has not implemented any enforcement changes in response to recent federal guidance requiring commercial drivers to speak English, as it is not part of California law. See, there's a difference, folks, between an executive order and an actual law. Executive orders are only things that should be affecting the executive branch. You actually want a law, you have to run it through Congress and then have it signed by the president. That makes it a federal law. This is part of the reason why a lot of times when you sit here and hear executive orders, great. But if I'm not part of the executive branch of government, they literally do not apply to me. And this is part of the problem. If we want these things to go into real effect, Congress has to act on them. Because the president, and this is where Obama, I blame Obama, because Obama was the one that said, I have a phone and a pen, I can dictate anything that I want. He can't. And believe it or not, neither can Trump. Now, executive orders generally are utilized to help clarify the enforcement of laws, but you can't do that. You can't do that, or you cannot create law through an executive order. It doesn't work. Our Constitution prevents that from happening. The legislature is the Congress is the only place where it can be placed into law. Anyway, and this is part of the problem, okay? This is part of the problem. Now, this mandate, of course, is being forced or enforced in some cases or ignored by the states. So there was a recent research website called Overdrive. And so far this year, the California inspectors have only logged just what they call an English language proficiency or an ELP violation away from the border zone. And the inspectors did not place that driver out of service. So here, let me see if I can find a better, I thought I had a better one, a better thing for it, but let's see if I can zoom in enough to where you can kind of see it. All right. Yeah, that doesn't work. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this much larger. There we go. That works. Okay, so here you can get an idea. So these are the top states that have been enforcing this executive order. Okay. Texas has written from June 25th to July 20th, 1,852 ELP violations. And they, of those out of service, they added 6 out of service violations, or they put 6 people out of service. Arizona enforced 157. Of those, 43 were put out of service. California did 80, but only put 1 person out of service. Tennessee did 73 ELP violations and put 72 of those 73 out of service. Wyoming did 51 ELP violations and put 48 of those out of service. Pennsylvania, 44, did 5 out of service. Colorado did 41 and put 41 out of service. Iowa did 41 and put 41 out of service. So as you can see, this is not just a, sort of whatever. This is a serious violation. English language proficiency, especially when you're driving a 40,000-pound vehicle or whatever it is, down the highways, across states, and everything else. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And you ask yourself, why does all of this matter realistically? I mean, why is it so important? Well, just think about it. Just think about it. If an individual who does not speak English or is not able to communicate well enough in English, driving one of those big rigs, all it takes is one tiny mistake, as we just saw, and it can be deadly. Now, this isn't the first time, by the way. This isn't the first time in America's history that we haven't done this. Okay? That we have not been checking for this. This isn't like a super surprise, by the way. In fact, and by the way, too, California, by giving him that CDL, opened themselves up for a potential lawsuit. This isn't the first time that California has actually done this, by the way. So back in 1994, all right, so George Ryan, actually not 1994, I'm sorry. George Ryan was the governor of Illinois in 1999 to 2003. So I apologize. I thought it was California, but California should be sued. Illinois is where the precedent comes in with this, okay? And California, of course, needs to be sued. I think it is. I didn't realize there was legal precedent until this article came out in the Daily Wire. Hat tip to Matt Walsh, by the way. But a criminal investigation should be opened into Gavin Newsom. So George Ryan was the governor of Illinois from 1999 to 2003. And he was actually taken down by a scandal that was called Operation Safe Road. And what the Operation Safe Road basically was, is that they were tracking the sale of commercial driver's licenses to unqualified drivers. Now that scandal, and this is where I got the 1994 from, that scandal dated all the way back to 1994 when 6 children were killed after a taillight assembly fell off of a semi-truck on the interstate. So think about this. You're driving down the interstate and a piece falls off of a truck driven by an individual who doesn't understand English, because apparently other drivers had tried to warn that driver that his taillight assembly was dangling loose, but the semi-driver couldn't speak English. Now, what happened is that taillight assembly fell off while he was going down the interstate, and it actually struck the gas tank of a minivan behind it. Now, this guy apparently had bought his license on the black market, which of course made it even worse. But the thing about it is that it later emerged that the governor himself was being implicated in distributing commercial driver's licenses to drivers who were unable to understand basic English, which is pretty much kind of what happened in California and is happening still in California. And we have to acknowledge, of course, that the problem isn't just limited to California, because apparently there is an open secret that in the trucking industry that how widespread this fraud actually is. There are so many foreigners with no understanding of our country's customs or laws, they are routinely handed the keys to 18-wheelers, often to disastrous results. And very often, the employer of these people is a shell company, and it's impossible to actually punish that shell company in any kind of meaningful way. Now, Matt writes here, quote, while researching the topic, I went online and looked up a bunch of recent crashes involving 18-wheelers. All of these clips, and I'm not going I'm not going to play them for you. But all of these clips were from the last 2 years. And every single one of them involves a driver who clearly is not an American. So this one that he's talking about, I'm not going to say the guy's name because I can't pronounce it. But he basically said that this guy is accused of causing an 18-vehicle pileup that killed 5 people, including children, and injured 11. He's out on a $7,000 bond. Most likely, he's not going to spend any time in prison at all. One of Matt's producers reached out to ICE about the man's case, and they told us if he is convicted, he will be subject to removal. So we can make the obvious inference there, which is that he is an illegal alien. There's another report, same thing from Dallas, just 3 months ago, where a man fell asleep at the wheel of his 18-wheeler. Meanwhile, over in Nevada, a 29-year-old African drove on the wrong side of the road in his 18-wheeler. He ran over several motorcyclists, killing 3 of them. One of the fatalities was a 22-year-old man who was celebrating his birthday. He was crushed by the 18-wheeler as his parents looked on. So, and according to the court case, wind was his defense. The wind supposedly blew the 18-wheeler onto the wrong side of the road for 30 seconds. Yeah. No one else was blown out of their lane. Even the motorcyclists were able to maintain their lanes. So right up to the point that they killed him. So, yeah. Anyway, folks, this, just like, they want to talk about gun control. They want to talk about having people, there are states, by the way, that have requirements where you have to take a firearm safety class in order to be able to obtain a concealed weapons permit. There are some states that even require like a mental evaluation before you can get a concealed weapons permit. Yet they allow illegal aliens to just grab a driver's license or even get it, illegally, but they grab a driver's license and they immediately get behind the wheel of one of these extremely large and hard to control vehicles, and they cause all kinds of havoc because they're not following our laws. They're not trained appropriately to be behind the wheel of these things. So, yeah. I this kind of thing, I'm just telling you, is something that we really need to take a closer look at. So apparently this guy that I was just talking about who essentially ran over those motorcyclists, he apparently can't even read street signs. He needs a special translator from Africa in order to understand what's happening around him. But apparently none of that is disqualifying in any of these quote-unquote sanctuary states. Now, of course, again, you get handed a commercial driver's license from these places and they'll send you on your way. I mean, this is crazy. Now, I'm not going to say everyone, but many of these trucking accidents are like this. So there was another individual, again, Dallas, that apparently was a crash, and then there was another person who was a drug trafficker who had been deported more than a dozen times. This one in Colorado. Colorado police determined that the speed was a primary reason for the crash, and that the truck's brakes had failed. And this guy, his last name, by the way, is Cruz Mendoza. So there you go. That kind of gives you an idea. He only received a 7-month prison sentence. He's been deported, of course. But there are so many crashes that occur and happen under these conditions. It's impossible to actually track them all. And very often the media, of course, doesn't tell you that it was an illegal alien or somebody who really doesn't speak English who shouldn't even have a commercial driver's license. There also was a crash, apparently, in the Coachella Valley last month. We still have no explanation as to how that happened. The latest news article that could be found is 4 weeks old. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of urgency in California to get to the bottom of it. An 18-wheeler veered across the freeway and killed several people. But apparently we're not allowed to know anything about who was driving it. So, yeah. And it's not just America that's having this problem. Canada apparently also has their issue. A few years ago in Ontario, a trucker plowed into a car while he was texting on his phone. Crash killed 2 children, ages 7 and 3, and their 68-year-old grandmother. So, he shouldn't have been driving at all. That guy apparently falsified his logbook, for one thing. Canada, of course, shouldn't have allowed him into the country, but he was a, illegal alien, and it was fine. And it just goes on and on. This article just goes on and on and on. We cannot sit here and allow this stuff to happen. A regular driver's license is bad enough. I find it fascinating, honestly, that whenever you have a situation where somebody gets killed in an auto accident, regardless of whether it's a semi or just a regular auto, whatever, the immediate blame, of course, goes to the driver. But yet, whenever you have some sort of a shooting or something like that, the leftist morons that are out there immediately blame the gun. They don't blame the individual who is holding the gun. Folks, I just don't understand it. This doesn't make any sense. And realistically, under the Constitution, the federal government has the authority to regulate interstate commerce. This would probably fall under interstate commerce, because trucks are actually moving products from state to state. So having the federal government come up with a law that basically just says, hey, if you're a commercial driver and you have a CDL, you need, at a minimum, you need to be able to speak and communicate. Well, just communicate in English, no matter what. And you should be required to hit, let's say 5th grade, 6th grade, maybe even farther than that in terms of being able to speak it. We have got to up the game here, folks. Now, most of these incidences, honestly, have been, tossed under the rug. Many of them don't even make national news because they're local stories. But when you do something like this and you start digging into an analysis of the pattern across the entire country, this is just amazing to me. Now, I'm usually not one for regulation necessarily, but in this particular case, because of the fact that you're dealing with something that is an everyday occurrence and can affect so many people, this should become no different than the aviation industry. Everybody needs to speak English, because English is recognized by just about everywhere on this planet. It is a secondary language. It is actually taught as a secondary language in many schools internationally. This is something that has to happen here. And so in this particular case, I sort of agree. Now, what's even worse, or what's even more shocking, is that it's an open corruption that takes place across DMVs all over the country. According to a Fox affiliate in Florida just a month ago, 8 people were arrested in Florida in connection with an alleged driver's licensing scheme involving illegal aliens. During the investigations, authorities discovered that 2 DMV employees were issuing an abnormally high number of driver's licenses. Upon reviewing the DMV surveillance footage, investigators confirmed that the individuals receiving these licenses were not completing the legally required tests. That same probe also revealed that the individuals seeking these licenses were connected through a third-party intermediary. And many of those licenses, by the way, were CDLs. This has been going on for several years. There have been similar busts in California, New York, all over the country. We know that these arrests were barely scratching the surface. Seriously. The only DMV employees who were caught in all of these cases were being extremely obvious about it. So we essentially have a level of corruption at every level. DMV itself is corrupt. Many trucking companies who don't really exist. Unaccountable drivers who often have no regard for our laws or our language, and they're able to just walk free after a couple of years after they kill American people, American citizens. And this pattern, by the way, is known as non-domicile CDLs, which basically allows foreigners who don't live here to own a commercial driver's license in the U.S. And this is an advocate. Matt Walsh in particular is an advocate for getting rid of these non-domicile CDLs. That being said, though, they definitely need to start having a lot more checks on these things and enforcing the law across all states. All states. So anyway, I agree. I totally agree. All right. Looks like I blanked out for a second. Okay. Sorry about that. You guys got bumped for a second. And apparently the connection in between my 2 streaming services is, Anyway. All right. Let's go on. Let's see. Is there another one of these wonderful things? Oh, yes. I can do this one. Oh, actually, I want to do this one. There we go. All right, folks. Anyone who is an outdoor crew enthusiast, an outdoor enthusiast, or anyone who just wants to be ready for anything, you need to check out the Red Pro Series 72-hour emergency kit from Caddis Sports. This is a serious 72-hour survival pack built into a rugged tactical backpack that is loaded with everything a single person needs. 2,400 calories of food bars, 5 water pouches, a thermal emergency blanket, 36-piece first aid kit, an emergency stove, and a canteen cup. You gotta get one, man. Put it in your car, okay? Get it and put it in your car. Take it around with you everywhere. All of it has a 5-year shelf life, so you're covered for hurricanes, wildfires, blackouts, whatever life throws at you. Whether you're off-grid or just want peace of mind at home, this kit is a must-have. This kit is a must-have. Compact, reliable, made for real emergencies. So, go to Caddis Sports, CADDIS Sports.com. CaddisSports.com. Use the promo code RUMBLE, RUMBLE, at checkout to get 10% off your order today. Go to CaddisSports.com. Use promo code RUMBLE at checkout to get 10% off your order today. Gear up, stay safe, and be ready when it counts. Get your 72-hour emergency kit from Caddis Sports by going to CaddisSports.com and use promo code RUMBLE, RUMBLE, today. All right. Okay. So I don't know. Has anybody heard about the presidential library for Barack Obama? I'm actually shuttering the presidential library for Biden, but apparently the presidential library for Barack Obama is gaining some criticism by the people who are in the area. And well, let's just say they're really not happy about this. So let's take a quick listen.
It looks like a big piece of rock, kind of right in the middle of what used to be Jackson Park, full of like lush flowers, trees, and just beautiful. And all of a sudden here you got this big monstrosity. It's over budget. It took way too long to build, and it's
ugly. Over budget, took too long to build, ugly. They grabbed it out of the middle of a park. Okay. And some people have been calling it a oh, and by the way, it apparently is going in a neighborhood that has about a lot of affordable housing. That's what they call it, affordable housing. Now this thing, yeah, see, Ms. T has already pointed out, G is saying that they need to put an eyeball on top of it like Sauron's tower in Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of people who have called this thing out, by the way. Ken Blackwell on X said the Obama Presidential Library under construction in Chicago looks like a fill in the blank. Well, somebody named Dame Scorpio wrote, I think it looks like a totalitarian command center dropped straight out of 1984. She says, you can't make this up. This hulking gray monolith doesn't look like anything like a library. Now, folks, here's a comparison, okay? Let's take a look at the Ronald Reagan Library. Ronald Reagan's one of my favorite presidents. In fact, he is, I personally think he's one of the all-time greats. But let's take a look at the Ronald Reagan Library. So rather than having this big monstrosity, okay, poking up out of the ground, looking like a trash can or the Borg, as my Whiskey Warriors are starting to chime in here. But let's take a look at this. Is a long-distance shot to the Ronald Reagan Library. The Ronald Reagan Library is in Simi Valley, California. And when you look at it, and here's one of the large yards surrounding it. This is the backside of the library. I mean, you're only looking at maybe 2, possibly 3 stories. It's not like this big, huge, tall building, but it is sprawling. It is sprawling. But the grounds are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, here's a look at the backside. Looks like they've got, nicely manicured bushes and things like that. Yeah, somebody Bam just posted, is that Arkham Asylum for Batman? Anyway. So yeah, you can take a look. These are the outsides of it. And here's one of the eateries on the inside of it. One of the coffee stand, pub kind of places, eateries. You can go and take a look. Here's another, again, now I want you to notice the scalloped, kind of the architectural style of the Southwest, typical. The scalloped roof. So this here, this is the front of the library. And again, you can see this is the Southwest, or this is the Reagan Library. I mean, it's reportedly, gorgeous on the inside. It's in comparison, I mean, here's another interior look. Granted, this is at the eatery, but there's that, and then let's see. Oh, here's a replica of the Oval Office that Reagan sat in. I mean, this is Reagan. Okay, this is Reagan. Class, sophistication. This is beautiful. It's a fantastic, and they even have Air Force One back from when he was involved. They have Air Force One, which reportedly you can walk in there and you can check out, some of like the interior of the plane. Let's see. There was a photo. I saw a photo in here that had it. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. But anyway, I mean, you can see, I'm scrolling on the left side. You can see some of the, I mean, this is just gorgeous. This is what a presidential library should look like. I mean, seriously, this is just absolutely gorgeous. And they even have a couple military things here too. Like this is the tank, a tank. I don't know which version of tank. This is looks like an F-14 Tomcat. So it just is, gorgeous. The grounds and everything else around it. And they even have like the police cars and the presidential limousine from back then. Just, incredible. I mean, even from the outside, they have at least one glass side. This is at the front of the plane. It's just like a hangar size. So it's 3 stories maybe. This is just gorgeous. So I was talking to Mrs. Whiskey on this, and I sort of made the comment that, hey, we got to get a bucket list together. I mean, here, just take a look. Here's a this is the gift shop, which, by the way, you can buy a lot of this stuff online too. Oh, I'm a wireless engineer by trade. Guess what? I just found an Aruba access point. See this thing right up here? Right here. Let me put it right in the middle. Right in between those 2 lights, that's a Aruba access point. Sorry, geeking out. Anyway, as I was saying, this is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is a beautiful place that you would go and take a look and, be able to walk around. And I mean, this is nothing compared to that gray monolith that is there. Here's a photo from inside. I'm assuming this is part of some of the dresses maybe that Mrs. Reagan wore. So, yeah. I mean, this is gorgeous. Here's some of his saddles. some of the saddles that he wore. Reagan was a avid horseman. So, but I mean, just think of the difference in this construction, in the way this is put together, in comparison to everything else in terms of Chicago. I mean, look at this. Again, just take a closer look at this thing. Compare that, and granted, I know it's not quite finished yet, but compare this. Okay, compare this thing with the Ronald Reagan Library, which has the elements of what would essentially be the Southwest built into the architecture and so on and so forth. I mean, this is just fantastic, in my opinion. By the way, this is one of the bucket list items I'm going to have, is to just go down there and do like a whole day. I'll look into it further, but yeah, here's some images of Ronald and doing some of his writing and that kind of stuff. Just some fantastic stuff in here. I would love to just come down here and just spend the day. But anyway, so there you go. Anyway, that would be fantastic. I would just love to do that. But just look, I mean, just think of the comparison between Obama's abomination, there we go, Obama's abomination, and the Reagan Library. That's just amazing. All right. Well, yeah, that thing looks more like a guard tower at a prison than a library. I agree. Well, I know I haven't talked about this in a while. This was the whole auto pen pardon fiasco. Apparently, there are now some internal DOJ emails that have been obtained by the Oversight Project. And these emails essentially are communiques that are discussing the pardons that Joe Biden put together at the very end of his presidency. Now, Associate Deputy Attorney General Bradley Weinsheimer is one of the main people that is a part of this email chain. And the emails, which were provided by U.S. Pardon Attorney Ed Martin's office, reveal that the Biden administration apparently misled the nation in terms of who they were giving these pardons to, and in terms of how violent these criminals were that he was giving these commutations. And there was also some questions from the Deputy Attorney General about the legality of the whole thing. Because apparently the way that they had written some of the commutations, there was no clear articulation of what was being commuted. The sentence that was actually being commuted. And there's even one point where Weinsheimer said you should stop saying that because it's untrue or at least misleading. And what he was referring to is that it was nonviolent offenders. And he even wrote this in the email and said, hey, you should stop saying that these people are nonviolent offenders because it's untrue. So Mike Howell, who is the president of the Oversight Project, told Blaze News, where this is coming from, this represents the first written black and white evidence of fundamental disagreement in the Biden camp as it relates to the pardon strategy writ large. He said, obviously, this is particularized to the warrants for the commutations of people they never should have let out of jail, but it's the senior, most career lawyer in the DOJ. Basically, Merrick Garland's top guy, who is basically saying what the F are you guys doing? This is illegal. Now, Howell suggested further that the potentially unlawful nature of the commutations is cause to keep imprisoned those whose sentences were commuted and who are scheduled to be released. So, yeah. In a January 17, 2025 statement attributed to Biden, characterizes the recipients of the commutations as felons convicted of non-violent drug offenses. However, in the emails obtained, reportedly, it shows that Weinsheimer took issue with that apparent lie, noting that, quote, in the communications about the commutations, the White House has described those who received commutations as people of non-violent drug offenses. I think you should stop saying that because it's untrue or misleading. So it's not just his use of the auto pen, which we're not even sure that he was even aware of what was going on with the auto pen. Yeah. The former DOJ official apparently added, I do not think it's close to accurate to describe all the clemency recipients as those convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. Of the almost 2,500 federal inmates who received the commutations, they're basically a motley crew of thugs, including murderers and violent drug dealers. Yeah, and there's a few in this. You can take a look at the article, but there's a few in here that are mentioned. Weinsheimer also added that based on a limited review, the DOJ identified 19 inmates under consideration for clemency who were, quote, highly problematic, as that list included violent offenders who committed acts of violence during the offense of conviction, or those who have a history of violence, such as it is misleading to suggest that they are non-violent drug offenders. Yeah. So, and Weinsheimer also wrote in his email, quote, I have no idea if the president was aware of these backgrounds when making clemency decisions. The department was largely excluded from the process, which we otherwise opposed. Which again brings in the whole idea, did Biden actually know what he was commuting or what he was clearly saying to the auto pen, to have the auto pen sign for all of this? I mean, seriously, did he even know? Was Biden even aware or cognizant of the fact that he was actually even the president in office at the time this stuff was going on? I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. And, they definitely need to take a look at all of this. So, yeah. All right. First of all, I have to give a thank you to My News. My News just posted a Rumble rant. Said, I was in Kentucky for several months before we came to California when I was 15. So My News knows about Kentucky and California. That's fantastic. Thank you, My News. I do appreciate that. One last thing I want to tell you before we wrap up for tonight. Apparently, the Missouri Attorney General has been named as co-deputy FBI director. Now, for those of you that remember and recall, Dan Bongino was the FBI deputy director. But now they've added a second deputy director. Now, obviously, the left has been questioning this move and questioning whether or not this is something that may be a replacement for Bongino or possibly even a placement for Pam Bondi or something along those lines. Until we actually know what's going to happen, and there's even some suggestion, too, that Dan Bongino might be looking for a exit from the FBI to get back to his podcasting, which if he does, I mean, I would be more than happy and more than accepting of that kind of an answer. But apparently it could also be, this is another suggestion that's running around, is that there is so much stuff that Bongino and Patel themselves can't keep up. So we'll just have to see where this goes. I mean, Bongino did say welcome to the FBI. Didn't say, I mean, it was, granted, it was short on X. It was short and terse, but it didn't seem like to be one of those things where he was sort of resentful about it. But then again, I mean, 2 words really doesn't tell you a whole heck of a lot. And we do know that there was a big dust-up between Bongino and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel not too long ago about the Epstein files. So there's a lot of speculation in terms of what this might mean. As far as we know, historically, there has not ever been a co-deputy director of the FBI. But we'll have to see. So, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey is going to step down. It will be effective September 8th. And we'll just have to see where this goes and what happens here for that. So, anyway. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. No pet of the week. We didn't get a submission. So, unfortunately. So we will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Also, don't forget to head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified whenever I go live. Also, too, don't forget on your way out, hit those thumbs up or thumbs downs if you really want. And make sure that you do that across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.